friends, and welcome to part 2 of the Knight Rider build that I'm doing here. So I want to do something a little bit different this time and start with the diorama. As you can see, I have started with the car already, and obviously with the Michael Knight figure. But oftentimes I finish one of these and it just has to go on like a blank shelf because I don't have the actual setup done for it yet. So I thought this time it would be cool to actually have the diorama done first, and then once the car is finished, it can just go right on the shelf where it's supposed to go, and it'll be home. So, and also I cleaned my gutters and mowed my lawn today, so I'm tired, and I figured the diorama was going to be the easiest part. So I was like, you know what? Any momentum is good momentum. Now, I'll pop in some photos of what the background looks like that I'm attempting to recreate for this. But it's the diorama is going to be based on the trailer that KITT would pull into on the show. And it was like, I mentioned it in part 1 of this. It's kind of like the little command center, mobile command center for KITT, where, they do like diagnostic stuff on him and fix the car and stuff. Yeah, so I thought it would look pretty cool, and I found some pieces that would work really well for it. So first of all, we're going to be using this insulation foam board. This is pretty much what everybody who makes dioramas uses, as far as I know. It's foam insulation board that you put this, like behind drywall and stuff like that for insulating rooms and whatnot. But this stuff, it's dense, but it carves really easily, and the standard texture of it really does look like concrete if you just kind of paint it correctly. You can use it to make rock forms and things like that. You can carve bricks into it. So it's really versatile stuff for these purposes. It's pretty inexpensive and it's pretty sturdy. What most diorama builders do is attach these kind of magnets to these. You can get these at craft supply stores. They have one sticky side, and essentially you kind of carve a little divot into the foam, stick the magnet in, do the same thing on another piece, and then you can connect them so that these things can be disassembled and reassembled via the magnets. So that's what I'm going to be doing. This one is going to be nice because it's a little different. Typically you got to paint these all the way and that kind of thing. Because the plan is to make it look like the one in the show, I'm just going to be using this as a base. And then for the flooring, I'm going to be using this stamped metal sheeting. I can never remember the name of this stuff, but in that little mobile command center, this is what the floor was made of. So, or covered with rather. So this is going to go on here. Now, these sheets were supposed to be larger than this, and I'm just going to have to work with what I've got. So, this doesn't go as deep as I would like it to. But, I think if I just make the dio a little less shallow, or a little more shallow, it'll work, especially because that way I can bring it up to the edge of the shelf more, and it will be a little more visible because there's going to be a shelf above it with, another vehicle. So that way you can see this a little better. So I'll pull it up to the front a bit. I can always get more of this stuff and then add it on later. So for now, the plan is to put this stuff on the bottom, and I've got 2 sheets of it, and hopefully that's enough. And then for the back piece, I picked up this corrugated plastic at the craft store. So I'm going to cut a piece out, and this is going to be the wall, and I'm just going to adhere it to the other piece of foam so that it has something to support it, because this stuff's pretty thin. But this corrugated texture is perfect for the background of what the trailer was supposed to look like. And again, you'll see some photos in the video of what that background looks like. So I'm going to spray paint this silver. I'm going to glue it to this backing piece here. And then I also got some black foam board. So it's foam with black paper adhered to it. What that's going to be is along the walls of the trailer, there are these black beams that kind of do like they're pillars, and then they have kind of an X support system kind of thing going across them. So I'm going to cut strips out of that black foam board and build those out to go on top of the silver wall. There's also some track lighting that they use in the trailer. I may put that in as well. I have a couple of these little lights. They're like a little book light thing that A lot of people get them at dollar stores, I guess. I couldn't find any in a dollar store. I tried a couple different ones. I couldn't find any. I was able to find some online, and you know, they're made to look like a little kind of desk lamp. I think they're for doll houses or something. But a lot of customizers and diode builders cut these, and then they just kind of stick them into the foam, and then they make a little street light out of them by like spray painting these silver. And so they kind of have a cool little, you know, LED light in them thing. So I think what I might do, I've got 3 of them, and I may just spray paint these silver and make these the track lighting. I don't know yet. We'll see how it looks without it, because I would like to save those for a street light and a diorama at some point. So I may hang on to those. So we'll see. But anyway, that's the plan. So I will check back in and show you all how this is coming along. Also, when cutting this foam, what I do is I cut along the line I need. I have this carpet cutter. These things only go about halfway. I mean, like the foam is, I believe, an inch. And, you know, I mean, it'll kind of get in there all the way, but it leaves a little bit left. From there, you take the seam, or you take the cut, and you put that on like the edge of a table, and then you just push down, and it snaps in half. So it's a really, really nice, easy way to cut it if you do it like that. All right, checking in here with the diorama, and it's pretty much finished at this point. This is probably one of the easiest ones I've ever made, which was nice. You know, I was happy to have found a recipe to duplicate what they call is like the mobile command unit, I think is what they called it on the show. Yeah, I just kind of like in my head, I knew the parts I would need for it, and so it was a pretty quick execution. I did run into a little bit of complication with that back piece. I initially had it much, much taller, and then I realized that because it was mimicking like the inside of a semi-truck trailer, it shouldn't be as high as it was, because, you know, those have a interior height of like 9 feet. So I meant to take it down to 9 inches, you know, because when you're working on like a 1/12 scale, an inch generally equals a foot. And I accidentally measured it from the base of the foam piece. There's about an inch, this foam is an inch thick, right? And so I have this back piece attached like that. So there's an inch at the bottom. So I accidentally measured from the bottom and included that bottom inch in the measurement, which makes that back piece 8 inches. Not that big a deal, especially where this is going to go on the shelf. It's going to be sitting on a lower shelf, and so you won't really see the back of it. This piece here is from the aforementioned Batman 66 Batcave set. I just took off the sticker that says Bat Computer right here. Now, on the show, they had like a whole area off to one end of this thing that was like carpeted and had like, chairs and desks and more computers and things like that. The shelf that I have is like exactly this width. So I didn't have space for all that other stuff, which kind of sucks because I would have liked to have made some of the miniature things and put them in there for set decoration. But in the end of the day, the car itself takes up all the space. And when you figure this is in the back of a semi-truck that is approximating, like there's no room to put the car at an angle to have other stuff just because, it's a narrow space that's barely wider than the car itself. So that's just going to be, the way it looks, which I'm fine with. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I have this extra depth here that I thought about putting some stuff. And kind of a funny thing, they didn't actually, they would pull this into the back of a truck for like long shots, but then the rest of it was on a set. Like in a lot of the shots of the show, you can actually see like the plywood and like the edge of the set, so they're actually facing out where the cameras are and stuff. So it's kind of fun that this sort of mimics that in a way, because it does have an extra like probably 4 inches of depth to it. So I'm kind of doing it as if you had peeled a wall away from the truck and you could see inside the same way the set did it. That being said, though, I still want it to be fairly accurate. So I only put one little thing in here, which you can see in some episodes of the show. They would have like a little diagnostics machine or something right there. So here it is with the car, with Michael. I love this pose for him. So I've been keeping it like that. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked on how this turned out. Now these bits you saw me put together, these are just this foam board that I cut into strips and then glued into place to make it look like these kind of support scaffolding pieces. This back part I put a piece of foam on the top to kind of cap it when I trimmed the foam. This also kind of mimics like the top piece of this black framing that you would see in the truck, and then the roof would come across like this, and it would be, have these beams continue this way. Thought about putting the track lighting in there, but I would have to fabricate the lights, and again, this sits on a part of the shelf where you won't really see the top because it's a glass shelf, but there are things above it. So, it was kind of like I'd be putting a lot of time and effort into making these little lights that you wouldn't really see anyway. Plus, I think there's at least like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So, there's a bunch of them that run across here. So that would be like a lot of making these little sort of light fixtures that, I haven't really thought out the materials for. And, there might be something I go back and do later. But as of now, it's like I just can't really see myself spending the time when the car and the figure are the main centerpiece and the background is just background. So there's a little bit of a gap up here underneath this foam piece. That's just kind of the nature of this material. This plastic backing is corrugated, so it's got all these little holes in here. So there's nothing to really stick any glue onto. So I had to, on the back of this, there's the foam, the insulation foam, and then I had to put some foam pieces on top of that to stick that cap to. So that's why it's a little gappy, just because there's not really anything for it to stick to, and then the foam is kind of raising it a little bit. But again, I'm happy with this being the backdrop. Like from a, just observing it on the shelf standpoint, I think it looks great. So yeah. Anyway, all this is just the preamble to get to the vehicle anyway, which is the main part that I'm excited about. So next up on the car, I've got some work cut out for me on this. I'm still working on the dash. So this is the foam dash that it's going to be sanded a little bit more and then painted, and then it goes in there like that. I'm also going to be, I decided that I am going to make the full interior. So door panels here, I need to do like a shelf, like a rear shelf for the back here, so that when this is on, it's not just a big empty space as it is now. It'll have an actual shelf there. One thing that I've been thinking a lot about is I need to make headrests for this. KITT had these headrests that go like that, and then they have kind of a hole in the center. And then actually in the episodes, you would see there would be like a two-way mirror material inside the hole, because they would actually have a guy like wearing the seat cover and he would be driving the car to make it look like there was nobody driving it. So I actually thought about putting some reflective material in there too, just as kind of like a little nod to the way they did it. But I think I'm gonna fully buy into the illusion with this and just make it, like a hole, so it's not like, yeah, that's where the driver would be, So I got to do that, paint the interior. I've got some velvet jewelry box liner that I used a similar technique for to make carpet for the interior on my John Wick build. So I'm going to be putting some of that in there. I'm trying to figure out, I'm thinking I might use the foam for the headrest. The thing is, this stuff is really lightweight, and what I would have to do is drill some holes into the tops of these and then stick some dowels in there to kind of anchor this, and then drill holes into the foam as well. The thing about the foam is that it's really hard to glue down, because glue acts as a solvent on this stuff. Like if you put super glue on this, it just eats away at it, because the glue has to stay liquid, and so it's got solvents in it. And so those solvents eat away at the foam. Same thing with like spray adhesive and spray paint. Like you can't spray paint this stuff. It just dissolves. So I'll have to hit it with a base coat of black acrylic probably before I do anything to it. But because I am spray painting the interior to be the tan color, I am a little worried that even with the coat of black paint on this, it might still eat through. So what I may end up doing for the seat rests is sculpting them out of an epoxy clay. It's a two-part thing that hardens to be like rock hard when it's cured. But that would allow me to, just kind of like make the form I want with a more additive process instead of subtractive. Like with the foam, I got to, sand it and scrape it and stuff like that. And with the clay, I can just mold it, make it what I want. I can sand it if I need to after the fact, but I can usually get a pretty accurate version without doing any sanding. So I might just do that for these, and then I can just super glue them straight down. I can still drill into it to anchor it, so I think I'll do that, but it'll just be easier to glue. So I think that's probably going to be the route I go with that. So yeah, a lot of work left on this, but I think we're off to a good start, and this is going to be a fun one, and I'm excited to make progress on it and get toward the finished product. That's going to do it for this video. At the beginning of this, you will have seen a trailer for my graphic novel Count. It's my sci-fi remix of the Count of Monte Cristo with tons of action and sword fights and cool robots and stuff. So please make sure to check that out. There's a link in the description where you can order it on Amazon or bookshop.com or Barnes & Noble, or you can get it from your local comic shop. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, hit the subscribe button to follow along with this build process. And until next time, keep your head on swivel.